I went from survivor to thriver. Someone with ME, someone with CFS, a lot of people with fibromyalgia, or a lot of these other hypersensitive nervous system disorders, you feel like a survivor, but you're not thriving, you're getting by. Sometimes your goal is just to make it until the end of the day. That was my goal for so many years, is I wake up, I feel like absolute garbage. I ask myself, why did I wake up today? And my goal is just to make it to the end of the day in one piece without flaring up my body too much. My goal wasn't even to enjoy myself. It wasn't even to laugh, wasn't even to smile, wasn't to taste the good food, wasn't to go have a good time with my friends or drive around and see the beautiful sunset. No, my goal was, let's not end up in the hospital today. Let's not have to call the ambulance today. Let's not try to die today. That was who I was for years. That was my identity. How's it going, guys? Miguel here from CFS Recovery. In this video, I'm going to be talking about changing your identity. It sounds so simple and so cliche, but changing your identity can make a massive shift in your recovery, if not the biggest shift in your recovery. And here's why. As somebody who has gone through this whole recovery process, who has been in the trenches and been lost for years and years, and when I say lost, I mean I was searching up forums and Facebook groups and looking for every single answer that I could get my hands on. I've tried medications, I've tried supplements, I've seen doctors, I've seen specialists, neurologists, endocrinologists, naturopaths, acupuncturists, chiropractors, massage therapists. I've done cleanses, I've done detoxes, I've tried hydrocortisone, I've tried thyroid medication, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. I've tried so many different things, and when you are on this journey and you're searching up myalgic encephalomyelitis, ME, all of these different things, you start to take on the identity of someone who is dealing with an incurable illness. And when that happens, you just feel so much more desperate. You feel so much more trapped, and it's terrifying, it's scary when there is no known solution out there. And I remember when people asked me what I had, I just told them I had some weird thing going on with my nervous system. This is before I even knew if I had CFS. Like, it's hard to actually get diagnosed with CFS. In fact, most people watching this channel right now, probably not even diagnosed by a doctor, but you diagnose yourself by a process of elimination because you've seen all of these doctors and specialists, you've had the blood tests and the scans, and they're telling you you're completely fine. So most people find out they have this through process of elimination. But here's the thing, you start to identify as someone with CFS or ME. And the thing is, those words, those labels are linked with this almost impossible to beat thing, or at least that's the common idea and understanding of it, that it's not curable. Because if you search it up online right now, and I'm not telling you to search it up, but you've probably already done it in the past, you're not going to find too much hope out there. You're going to find that this is something that you have to manage for the rest of your life, and there's no cure, and that there is no known solution for this. Not true. In fact, you're on this channel right now. This is the solution. But you start to feel really hopeless. And I remember so many times thinking that I would never get over this thing, thinking that this was the rest of my life and I'm going to be another statistic. I'm going to be like that person I saw on the forum who's had this for 20 years or 30 years, who can sometimes feel better, but not really know how long this good feeling is going to last. And you kind of feel held hostage by this illness. And if there's one way to describe this illness and the feeling that you have when you're carrying this around, it's powerlessness. You feel powerless. You feel like you're not in control of this. No matter how bad you want to fix this, no matter how hard you try, it seems like this thing isn't going away. In fact, sometimes the harder you try, the worse you get, because that go, go, go attitude towards us, that, you know, I'm going to do whatever it takes to break through this thing, sometimes that kind of energy is what actually causes symptoms to flare up. As we teach in a lot of our other videos, you know, how emotions can play a massive role in your symptom flare-ups. And so that's why I coined the whole term thriver, right? Thriver, it says it on this shirt. I went from survivor to thriver. Someone with ME, someone with CFS, a lot of people with fibromyalgia, or a lot of these other hypersensitive nervous system disorders, you feel like a survivor, but you're not thriving, you're getting by. Sometimes your goal is just to make it until the end of the day. That was my goal for so many years, is I wake up, I feel like absolute garbage. I ask myself, why did I wake up today? And my goal is just to make it to the end of the day in one piece without flaring up my body too much. My goal wasn't even to enjoy myself. It wasn't even to laugh, wasn't even to smile, wasn't to taste the good food, wasn't to go have a good time with my friends or drive around and see the beautiful sunset. No, my goal was, let's not end up in the hospital today. Let's not have to call the ambulance today. Let's not try to die today. That was who I was for years. That was my identity. And it's not a good identity to have, but that identity, someone with CFS, that's a survivor mentality. You are living to survive, not living to thrive. And here's when everything changed. It's when my doctor told me the science of what was going on. When he taught me that this is just a hypersensitive nervous system, it's like almost immediately, once it clicked, he explained it to me for probably the first, I'd say 20 to 30 minutes. And I sat there in my wheelchair in the hospital and I was like, this actually makes a lot of sense. So I'm not really dealing with this whole mysterious CFS thing. Now I can put a label on it. And this new label is a hypersensitive nervous system. And from that moment on, I no longer identified as someone with CFS or someone with ME or someone, more importantly, with an incurable disease that fell from the sky and I just so happened to be unlucky, so I got it. That wasn't the case anymore. Now there was a tangible thing, a label, a problem that I had to solve, which was the hypersensitive nervous system. So I no longer identified as someone with CFS. The moment I understood that this was actually a hypersensitive nervous system, it completely changed the game. And what we found with people is that once they start to adopt this mindset of a thriver, they start to think differently, they start to act differently, because a thriver doesn't just survive, a thriver thrives. A thriver grows in the face of hardships. A thriver does not quit, does not get discouraged. A thriver goes through the struggle and comes out victorious, comes out on top. And that's who I wanted to be. I was never somebody to just lay down and roll over and say, all right, woe is me, I guess this is my life. I wasn't gonna go down like that. But I'm not gonna lie, there were many, many days and weeks where I did think like that for a few hours, maybe a few days at a time, where it felt like all hope was lost. But I could never stay stuck there. You know, a small part of me inside knew that this wasn't going to last forever. It just wasn't my life path. And I was gonna go down fighting no matter what. And I'm sure that's why you're watching this video right now, is because you know there's a small part of you inside that believes there is a future that is worth fighting for. There is a future where you can laugh with your family and friends, and you can open Christmas presents on Christmas, gathering around the tree. You don't have to worry about all the noise and the lights and staying up late and eating all the junk food and how that's going to affect your nervous system. A part of you knows that there is a future worth fighting for, and there is a thriver inside of you. Let me give you this analogy. It's kind of like, you know, someone who wants to play the guitar. I myself, I loved playing the guitar when I was a kid, and I wanted to be the greatest guitar player ever. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be really good at guitar. I wanted to learn all the cool songs, and at first I sucked. Most people suck when they first start things. But as I was learning about these famous guitarists and these famous rock stars and their history and their backstory, I realized that every single person in the history books or who created great music, these were people who played guitar nonstop. They practiced every single day. They practiced all the time, a lot of them until their fingers bled, right? Now, I never pushed it to that limit. I think I did it a couple times, but for the most part, I understood that's what the greats do. If I want to be great at guitar, exceptional at guitar, I have to do what those rock star legends do. And that is practice and play more and play even more on the weekends, at nighttime, in between meals. Like, you know, when I was done my homework, immediately I would be playing guitar and I enjoyed it. But to me, it wasn't an impossible task. It wasn't even something out of the ordinary. It was an ordinary thing. It was the expectation, because that's just what guitarists did. That's what they did. Same thing with athletes. I was very into athletics growing up in high school. I was football team captain. I was also wrestling team captain for 3 years actually. And I had watched so many films about previous athletes I looked up to, professional athletes, and they trained hard. They dedicated themselves to their craft. They put in the hours when all the other people were sleeping or taking the day off, right? And could be a good thing or could be a bad thing. That's probably what led me to having the mindset that led me to CFS. But nonetheless, I tried to do what athletes do. And if I want to be a top athlete in my school, in my sport, in my division or area, I have to do what the greats do. So to me, I just took on the mentality of a great athlete. Okay, well, it's Saturday, I'm tired. Okay, well, let's do what athletes do. And so what I'm saying is, you want to take on the identity of a thriver. Let's just call it a thriver. I've coined this term, and I think it's a great term because it's the exact opposite of a survivor, right? Survivors just get by, like we said. Their goal is to make it till the end of the day, and that's as far as their vision sees. They're not really in it to win it. For me, when I was recovering, I was in it because I knew that there was a whole life waiting for me on the other side of all of this. And so I adopted this thriver mentality. I wanted to get my life back. So I was talking to my doctor, and because he had helped people get through this journey before, I asked him, I'm like, okay, so what did they do? What did you teach them? How should I go about this? What should I focus on? I listened. I followed the things and did the things that people who recover do, which seems obvious. But let's just say, for example, my symptoms were flaring up and I start getting scared. I'm afraid that I'm going to crash and go backwards. Well, guess what? The people who go on a downward spiral, the people who constantly tell themselves, oh no, am I back to square one? Is this bad for me? Should I go call the hospital right now? Should I call the ambulance for the 25th time for the same issue that I've had before? You know who says that? People who stay sick. People who stay stuck in the cycle. People who are sick for decades or years or many more months. People who are not making the progress that you want. So why would you do those same things that those people do? And a lot of that comes down to that identity. They're still in the survivor mentality mindset. Whereas if you have the thriver mindset, if you have a different mentality towards it and you're not identifying with CFS or ME or long COVID or any of this stuff, if you're identifying with, oh, hypersensitive nervous system, that's the problem I have, you don't feel like an outcast of society. You don't feel like you're going crazy because you can actually put your finger on what exactly is going on. And it allows you to respond differently. It allows you to respond as literally a thriver, somebody who has the ability to get through this. And it changes the way you see yourself. You see yourself as ultra capable to overcome this thing. So for me, when I adopted this mindset, it was inevitable that I was going to get better because people have done it in the past. People have gotten better. In fact, I was in the hospital and my doctor said there were other people just as bad as I was. I thought I was the worst case. I'm gonna pop up some pictures and videos here. I was in pretty bad shape. I was rough. I remember one of the first times I ever did activity after being bedridden for about 8 months was literally sitting in a wheelchair and then rolling back and forth, probably 2 millimeters. And my quads were on fire just sitting down. You'll see in the video, I actually rolled off of the bed, stood up for about 2 seconds and plopped myself into the wheelchair. And standing for 2 seconds completely wrecked my quads. It felt like it was on fire. It felt like I had squatted 300 pounds, which I have before in the past when I used to work out. This was harder than squatting 300 pounds. Moving back and forth 2 millimeters, that felt like a sprint. And I was out of breath. It felt like I was jogging uphill and all I was doing was sitting up. So because I had been in such a dark, debilitated place, and my doctor said, oh yeah, I've seen other people just as bad as you. And because he said it so calmly and so casually, it made me think like, okay, so this probably isn't a big deal. To me, this is a big deal. This is my life on the line here. This has been my life for the last 8 months. As in, I'm getting spoon-fed. I'm not showering for a month at a time because I can't even get to the shower. I can't even sit up in the shower. So my grandma's wiping me down, every few days. Because he said it so casual and he said, oh yeah, it's hypersensitive nervous system. This can be fixed. So all you have to do is this and you'll be good. And it wasn't just this and this. He taught me the recovery principles, the recovery science, which I've created into a blueprint. You can find it down below. The recovery science blueprint. That's everything he taught me, plus more. Because he said it so casually, man, I just figured, okay, well, this shouldn't be an impossible fix because the way he described it, it makes it seem pretty simple. Okay, and because he's done this with other people who were just as bad as I was, it made the expectation that much more realistic. I was like, okay, so I should recover from this. There shouldn't be any reason why. I fit the description of somebody who this science would work for. I've gotten all my tests and scans done. I've seen doctors, I've seen specialists who tried this medication and that medication, it didn't work. Okay, so there's only one other outcome that could happen if I do X, Y, and Z. So let me do X, Y, and Z. Turns out X, Y, and Z worked. And X, Y, and Z is exactly what I teach on this channel. There's a lot of different stuff I do teach, but the most important thing is I had to learn to stay calm in the face of symptom flare-ups. And not just physical symptom flare-ups, but also overthinking, the negative thoughts, the anxiety, the depression that came with it, right? The feeling like I lost my life. But I didn't realize prior to meeting my doctor that there was a whole other life that was possible. But once I met him and he told me this stuff and I started seeing little bits and pieces of progress, I was like, wow, I'm actually getting closer to getting out of this dang wheelchair, getting back into the world. But I wasn't in so much of a rush. I was learning to enjoy the process as well. Because as a thriver, I actually wrote a description for this. It's called a Thriver Manifesto. I'm gonna read it out right now. A thriver is a new kind of person. Patient, composed, dedicated, and free. A thriver believes in a future with thriving health, a future without chronic pain, suffering, and constraint. A thriver is in control of their destiny. They are able to persevere through challenges with unwavering commitment to better health. Thrivers define their own destiny, prioritize recovery, create their own progress, impact the world. I am a thriver and I am just one mind shift away. And I believe that with all of my being because I've experienced it myself and I've seen the change happen in so many people's. I am a thriver and I am just one mind shift away. The truth is, you could be just one mind shift away from unlocking a whole new path of recovery, which will then lead to you reintegrating back into the world, you traveling again, you working at your job, you doing the thing you've always wanted to do, the thing you've been longing for weeks or months or years, maybe even decades, spending time with loved ones, eating your favorite food, watching your favorite TV show without having to worry about the brain fog or the headaches or the internal buzzing that comes along with it. A thriver is somebody who grows in the face of adversity and becomes stronger because of it. So when you become a thriver, you stop counting the days of flare-ups. You stop tracking your heart rate. You stop tracking your symptoms. You stop asking yourself, am I going backwards? That is not something a thriver does. That is something a survivor does. A survivor is somebody who Googles symptoms and Googles treatments, things that they've already Googled before that they know are not the things that they're dealing with, but when they get anxious, they're looking for comfort. That's a survivor. A thriver is somebody who, when these feelings come up, they remind themselves this is just a hypersensitive nervous system. A survivor is somebody who doesn't believe they can recover and questions recovery. And when they see other people recover, they say, no, they never had it. That's impossible. You can't recover. That's a survivor. A thriver is somebody who, when you see other people recovering, you encourage them. You reach out to them. You say, keep on going. You got this. And somebody who is proud of others' success. That's a thriver. A survivor is somebody who makes the same mistake over and over again, is somebody who knows that they should be responding better, knows that they're overthinking and going on a downward spiral, and they continue doing it. A thriver is somebody who catches themselves in downward spirals and catches themselves talking themselves out of recovery and talking negative towards themselves and downplaying all of their wins and progress they've made. A thriver catches that and course corrects. But most of all, the most important thing, a survivor is somebody who does not respond well to symptoms and who doesn't really believe that they will have thriving health, doesn't believe that they can recover. A thriver is somebody who believes wholeheartedly in some way, shape, or form in their soul, they know that they will recover and one day they will be able to do all the things that they want to do. And they do that by responding well to symptoms. That is a thriver. So we covered a lot in this video. We talked a lot about different identities and adopting a different mindset, because when you adopt a mindset, a different identity, you start to act differently and think differently, and that leads to you recovering. So I want to ask you, Are you a survivor or are you a thriver? Because making this one simple decision, depending on which identity you adopt, that is going to determine your future. It all comes down to a simple decision of what identity do you want to be. This is the foundation of everything, but this is the one domino effect that is either going to keep you where you are or it's going to propel you into a new future of thriving health. So if you wanted extra help with this, of course, you can always watch the free YouTube videos. It helps a ton. There are so many people who recover through our YouTube channel. But if you did need extra help, you can click the link down below and apply to work with us inside of the CFS Recovery Academy. We have a strong community there. We have lots of group calls. We have a nervous system health assessment so we can determine where you're at and we can start the journey towards thriving health for you. If you wanted some extra help, click the link down below. You can learn more about it and we would love to help you on your journey. Other than that, always remember you are just one mind shift away from living a life with thriving health. I'll see you guys in the next video.